Hi, I'm Rachel Anthony. Welcome back to my channel. Today, on this week's Writing Wednesday, I'm going to share with you my plan for writing book number 2. As some of you may know, I have recently completed and in the process of publishing my debut novel, A Time for Us. It is currently on pre-order on my website, rachelanthonywrites.com, as well as all of your online book retailers. It will be officially released in just a couple weeks on January 27th, and I'm so excited about that. But even with all of that excitement, I am in full throttle writing book number 2. So, in order to meet my goal of publishing book number 2 by this time next year, I had to put a plan together to hit some milestones in order to make sure I meet that goal. So, what I'm going to share with you today is the milestones and the timeline that I put together for writing, editing, and publishing book number 2. So what I'm sharing with you right now is the timeline, and where I am right now is outlining. I am one of those writers who has to outline. For my own sanity, I need to understand the end-to-end plot, all of the characters before I can actually get, into the details of the story. I did a very basic bulleted outline months ago, probably like a year ago for book number 2. But what I've been doing now since November is getting into the lower level details of those outlines. And what that means is I am looking at every plot point of the story to make sure that everything is cohesive and there are no plot holes. I'm looking at all of the major characters to make sure I understand what their backstory is and to make sure it fits into the story. And again, there are no plot holes. Also looking at the dates. Date math is the bane of my existence, but it is a necessary evil. So I am making sure that all of my dates align, so there's no discrepancies in historical facts for one, and then any like correlation between ages of the characters and the dates themselves. So that is my process for outlining, and especially that lower level outline. I'm about 95% done with the lower level outline, and I am targeted to be done with that by this coming weekend, the 10th of January. And on the following day, the 11th of January, which is this coming Sunday, is when I really start putting words into chapters. So with first draft starts on this coming Sunday, January 11th. And I've allowed myself about 2 months to complete the first draft. So from January 11th to March 14th, I will just be kind of flowing out the story from end to end. It is my goal to have about 117,000 words in the first draft, thereabout. And in order to meet that goal, I have to be at a writing pace of about 13,000 words per week. And the way that I've structured that out is that on weekends when I don't have to go to corporate America, I will allow myself 4 hours a day to write. And on those days, Monday through Friday, when I do have to go to corporate America, I allow myself 1 hour a day to write. With that, my output goal is 1 hour, for each hour will be 1,000 words. So what that equates to is 4,000 words each weekday. Each weekend day, and then 1,000 words each weekday, which will get me to my weekly goal of 13,000 words. So that is the plan for completing the first draft. From there comes the second draft and my refinement process. So once again, I've allowed myself about 2 months for this process. So from March 15th through May 16th, I will be going in, reading the novel several times from end to end to make sure that the plot is tight. There are no plot holes. I'm going to be getting rid of any, filler words, any story points that I feel don't really drive the story or are necessary for the story, to get it to its tightest phase, to its cleanest phase. Also, be taking a more critical eye to spelling, grammar, sentence structure, kind of doing my own copy edit at that point within my second draft. It is at this point I want to be able to cut word count down to 100,000 words, because that is my ultimate word count for the final version of the novel. My debut novel came in at a final word count of just over 108,000 words. That was after cutting it from my first draft, which was about, just over 120,000 words. So that was a deep cut to get it to 108,000 words, which I was really targeting 100,000 words. But I would just lose so much critical story if I cut it anymore. So I have no regrets about those extra 8,000 words. They were necessary to bring the story to where I felt it needed to be. But for book number 2, once again, my target from the beginning is going to be 100,000 words. I didn't have a target for my debut novel until I got to the editing process with professional edits. And that's when I was giving a rude awakening that I needed to cut a lot. And so I cut as much as I could. But now going into book 2, I'm going into it with a word count goal. And I think that's going to help me get closer to that 100,000 word count goal. So after I've done my polishing with that second draft, I will then send it to my beta readers. So I have a very small group of readers who are comprised of just, avid fiction readers, as well as I have a former librarian in my beta readers, as well as a former English teacher. So I feel like though that little group will give the critical eye to the story, to the grammar, all of it, and will give me very good feedback that I can review and decide what I want to take from that and incorporate into the manuscript, and what I appreciate but would probably not incorporate. So I'll give my beta readers about a month to read and provide their feedback before I take about another month from from June 21st to July 20th to review and incorporate the feedback that I received from my beta readers into the manuscript. At that point, I will send to my developmental editor. So from July 21st through August 20th, I'll give my developmental editor about a month to do that review and get me the feedback back from that review. It's my goal to send as clean of a story and a manuscript to my developmental editor in hopes that there will be very little additional editing I would need to do after he or she reviews. Probably going to be a she. I'm probably going to use the same editor I used for my debut novel. So I will incorporate I will send and have that edit done. At the same time, I'm going to be still on my search for a designer to do my cover art. I will definitely be using a different cover designer this time. And I think the route I want to go is going to take more time than it took for the cover that I had done for A Time for Us. So I'm going to get a head start on doing that. So in July, I'll start researching and selecting the designer to do my cover as well. So from August 21st through October 23rd, so that's a 2-month period that we're looking at now, I will be looking at the revisions from my developmental editor and incorporating that into the manuscript. And then once I've done that, I will send that off to a copy editor to do that line by line edit to make sure there's, no grammatical errors, no spelling errors, everything is structured correctly. I did not do that on my debut novel. With the beta readers that I had with a former librarian and a former English teacher, I felt like I was pretty well covered from a copy edit perspective. Also, having a developmental editor who doesn't do copy editing, but when she sees things that she felt needed to be corrected, she would call it out. So there was also that level of review as well. And even my developmental editor said that the manuscript was clean. I didn't need a lot of copy editing, and my brain interpreted it as I don't need copy editing. So with that, there were about 10 or so, not necessarily typos, but yes, typos, tense, word tense corrections that needed to be done. Just about less than a dozen misses that I had in my debut novel that I feel probably would have been caught if I had gone through copy editing. So I'm going to, in addition to all of the other reviews that I'm going to have done, I'm also going to do copy editing this time in the hopes that I will come back with zero spelling, tense, grammatical errors in my book when it goes to print. So after while the copy editing is going on, I will also be working with the cover designer to finalize the cover, and I'm getting that ready for formatting as well. Final formatting as well. So that's what's going to be done between August 21st, my birthday, through October 23rd. After that, I will be sending the final edit after incorporating the feedback that I get from the copy editor. I will send the manuscript off for interior formatting. Once the interior formatting is done, then I will have a final page count for the paperback, and we'll be able to get the final exterior formatting for the cover, because the cover has to be formatted for the spine to fit the page count. So after that's done, we can put the final touches on the cover as well, and at that point, it's going to be ready to print. So during the month of December, that's what's going to happen. I will go ahead and send the formatted copy off to the print for printing. And at that time, I will also send out the electronic copies out to my ARC readers so they can be reading and getting ready to provide reviews on Goodreads, and once the book is released on whatever online format that they submit their reviews to. Then in January, it is going to be reviewing the physical proof of the printed copy, and then setting that off for any adjustments that need to be done to the printer. Getting those ARC reviews coming in, doing the hard marketing push, getting the word out about book number 2, doing pre-sales, all of that, and then getting my author copies of book 2 in my hands, which is such an exciting feeling. And then it's all about launch day. And launch day is targeted for January 26th, 2027. So just about a year from now. So that is the timeline. Those are my goals. Those are my milestones in order to reach this goal of January 26, 2027 to launch book 2. I hope you found that helpful. If there's anything that you think that I can do differently, or anything that you've done that you feel I can incorporate into my process to make my life a little easier, please put it down in the comments. I would greatly appreciate it. And anything that you can take away from my process that can make your life a little easier, please go for it. Shamelessly copy. I have no problem with that at all. And if you liked this content, I really hope that you will give it a thumbs up. And if you like more of this content, I hope you will subscribe and come back next Wednesday, when I will have a few more tidbits on my writing and publishing process on next week's Writing Wednesday. See you then. Bye.